So these are a couple of items from our history collections. One is a parasol that belonged to Mei Takasugi, who lived in Alliance, Ohio with her husband in the early 1940s. And another item we have is this photograph of Mei holding the parasol. And these are some really interesting items from our history collections because they help us gain a greater understanding of the story of Japanese-American internment during World War II. But the story of Japanese-American internment really begins on December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese military attacked a U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. And that attack unleashed widespread national security concerns in our country and also stoked anti-Japanese discrimination. So in the days and months following the attack on Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued public proclamations authorizing the detainment of so-called alien enemies that posed a threat to U.S. national security concerns. And some of the people who were targeted were American citizens of Japanese ancestry, like Mei and her husband. So one of the most consequential actions that President Roosevelt took was issuing Executive Order 9066, which authorized the United States military to ban anyone from certain areas stretching along the West Coast. So as a result of the president's actions, Japanese Americans were ordered to assembly centers from which they'd be sent to more permanent camps. And in the total time that these camps operated, from about 1942 until 1946, over 100,000 Japanese Americans were interned. Many historians say that that figure is anywhere from about 110,000 to 120,000 people. So even though they lived in Ohio at the time, Mei Takasugi and her husband still had a California address. And as a result, they were ordered, along with their family members, to an assembly center and later one of the prison camps. They were first sent to the Tulare Assembly Center in California and later to the Tule Lake Segregation Center in Northern California. Tule Lake was one of the 10 prison camps that the government operated from 1942 to 1946. And these camps were in remote areas of the country, surrounded by barbed wire and monitored by armed guards from their posts on large guard towers surrounding the camps. And the Takasugis and other detainees who were placed in these camps reported very poor living conditions, cramped spaces with lack of privacy, inadequate food, and other negative factors. So by 1946, all of the detainees at the 10 camps had been released, and eventually the government shut down the camps. And though we do not have specific records as to when Mei Takasugi and her family were released, we have been able to determine that they moved back to Southern California after they were released.
Members of Congress and distinguished guests, my fellow Americans, we gather here today to right a grave wrong.
So today, national security is still used as justification for impinging upon certain communities' civil liberties and personal rights. And so studying the story of Japanese-American internment during World War II hopefully will force us to ask the questions, how do we balance that need for national security and safety with civil liberties?